So they said it was coming, but now it's here. More than 26,000 construction-related jobs have vanished across the Greater Toronto Area. And these aren't forecasts or hypotheticals. These are real people who've already lost their livelihoods. Tradespeople, builders, families who depended on the work that kept Ontario growing. Hi there, this is Claudia Ragona. I'm one of the Ragona Sisters, and today we're going to talk about something that hits deep for anyone connected to housing, trades, or real estate in Ontario. Because this isn't just a story about fewer homes being built. This is a story about a system that's shifting. It's shifting fast, and the people who are getting pushed out as a result. So let's start with what the latest numbers are actually showing. A new report from the Residential Construction Council of Ontario, working with the Smart Prosperity Institute, found that across 34 municipalities in the Greater Toronto Area, housing starts are down 34% in just 1 year. Condo starts are down 51%. Detached and ground-oriented homes, well, they're down another 43%. And if that sounds bad, it's even worse when you zoom in. Cities like Pickering and Oakville and Ajax have seen some of the sharpest declines. In some areas, housing starts have dropped more than 70%. That's not a cooling market, that's a collapse. Now, I want you to think about what that means. Every time a housing start disappears, it's not just a number on a spreadsheet, it's a job. 10 jobs, even 100 jobs gone. It's an excavator who doesn't have a site to dig, a framer who doesn't have a project to frame, a drywall crew whose next contract got canceled, a carpenter who's been doing this for 25 years now wondering if he's going to be able to pay his bills. And that's what's happening right now in Ontario. More than 26,000 people, the ones who built the houses we live in, are now suddenly watching the ground shift beneath their feet. Never would they have thought that this could possibly happen. And when you look at why this is happening, it becomes clear that this isn't just another market correction. It's not just about high interest rates or cautious buyers. What's happening right now looks a lot more like a full-blown restructuring of how homes are built in Ontario. And who's allowed to build them? Because while the average builder and the average tradesperson are struggling, the system is rewarding something else entirely, which is speed, scale, and profit. It's rewarding those who can build fast, cheap, and in bulk. And it's slowly pushing out the people who build with their hands, their skill, their pride, and their craftsmanship. And this is the new reality, and it's already reshaping Ontario's housing landscape. Right now, if you're a small or mid-sized builder in Ontario, the deck is stacked against you. Land prices are through the roof. Municipal fees and taxes and development charges have ballooned to make up over 36% of the total cost of building a new home. Zoning approvals can take anywhere from a year to 18 months. And let's not forget about interest rates. When borrowing costs jump, small builders can't hold on to land. They can't wait for permits. They can't sit on financing. And every month they hold a project, they bleed money. So what happens? Well, they start scaling down. They put projects on hold or they get pushed out entirely. And for the trades, the workers who depend on those smaller jobs, those smaller projects, that means job after job is drying up. So when you hear that Ontario has lost over 26,000 construction jobs, it's not just because the market's slow. It's because the entire way we build homes is being rewritten. Now, I want to take you back to something that aired months ago because this was a warning. It was already out there. Back in September in 2025, CBC News Toronto ran a report that spelled this out in plain language. They showed a 9-story mass timber building going up on Royal York Road in Etobicoke. And in that story, they said something that should have stopped everyone in their tracks. And that was, we're in the process of laying off thousands of people right now. The report warned that once current high-rise projects wrapped up, tradespeople would be out of work. And one expert said, a year from now, those people that are working on those high-rise projects that are getting finished are going to be unemployed.
This 9-story mass timber building is coming together on Royal York Road in Etobicoke. Elements of the prefab design are built in Vancouver and shipped to the site for construction. It's innovative work to address the housing crisis at a time when the Residential Construction Council of Ontario warns projects are starting to dry up.
We're in the process of laying off thousands of people right now.
That group says it's beginning to see the impact of the province's stalled housing starts, and layoffs amongst the trades are taking hold.
A year from now, give or take, those people that are working on all those high-rise projects that are getting finished are going to be unemployed, which is terrible.
It's a warning that comes as Ontario grapples with both rising unemployment and slowing home construction. Unemployment across the province has jumped to 7.8%. Ontario lost 38,000 jobs between April and June, mostly in manufacturing. And the province has missed its goal of building 125,000 new homes, hitting about 75% of that target in 2024. Builders are urging Ontario to cut taxes and fees it charges, including HST for first-time home buyers.
And here we are, not even a year later. That was just in September. It's December now. And that's exactly what's happening. These warning signs were right there on national television. But instead of changing course, the industry doubled down, leaning further into prefab construction, modular housing, and massive purpose-built rental projects. You might ask, isn't that good? Isn't that progress? Well, that depends on who you ask. Prefab construction, modular homes built in warehouses, shipped in pieces and assembled on site, may sound efficient, and in some ways it is, but what's left out of that conversation is who loses out when that becomes the norm, because prefab means you don't need 20 or 30 trades on site anymore. You just need a few people to assemble the modules once they arrive. Walls, they're built in the warehouse. Kitchens, they're pre-assembled off-site. Bathrooms delivered as one complete pod. Roof, well, that comes in a single piece and is craned into place. So instead of 50 people working on a site over 6 months, you've got maybe 6 workers on site for a few weeks. And the rest of those jobs, well, those are gone. And that's the part of the story nobody wants to talk about. Prefab doesn't just build faster, it builds with fewer people. Now, I'm not anti-innovation, but when progress comes at the expense of livelihoods or entire trades disappearing, that's not innovation. That's literally elimination. Because this isn't a trend that small builders can join. Prefab requires massive capital, factories, equipment, scale, and who has all that? The big developers. Think Brookfield, the Daniels or Mattamy, the companies that already dominate the market. They can afford to shift to prefab, to control the supply chain, to build faster, hold longer, and rent out their own developments. And for them, this new model is perfect. They don't need to sell homes. They build, they rent, they manage. They own the land, the buildings, the revenue stream. But for small builders, that world is closed or is closing. They can't compete. They can't hold land for years. They can't fund a factory. They can't outbid institutional investors. So as the housing market evolves, they're being quietly erased. And when they disappear, so do the people they employ. That's the framers and the plumbers, the electricians, the apprentices, the ones who make up the lifeblood of Ontario's building industry. And when small builders disappear, home ownership disappears with them, because big developers don't build to sell, they build to hold. They're creating a rental-based housing market, one where more and more Ontarians rent forever because those homes that used to be built for purchase are just not being built anymore. That means less wealth building, fewer options, a housing market that's no longer about home ownership, but about corporate control. And that's just not an economic shift. It's a cultural one. We're moving from province where people could build, own, and pass something down to one where housing becomes another investment product managed by a few large companies. Now, imagine you're a young person entering the trades right now. You've paid thousands for school, tools, and certifications. You're ready to build homes, like real homes, but when you finally enter the workforce, you find fewer projects, fewer builders, and less stability. You're told to wait for calls that never come. You see prefab modules rolling down the highway, but built somewhere else by someone you've never met. How long before you give up? How long before you switch careers? That's the real scary part, because once tradespeople leave, they don't come back. You can't rebuild a generation of skilled workers overnight. And without them, even prefab factories will struggle to scale because you still need tradespeople to build, maintain, and inspect. It's a feedback loop, and it's not a good one. So where does this all lead? Well, if we keep heading down this road, we'll end up with a housing market dominated by prefab rentals owned by corporations. Trades will be gig-based, smaller builders will vanish, and the dream of owning a home for most people will move even further out of reach. But it doesn't have to be that way. There's still time to course correct. Ontario can streamline permits for smaller builders, reduce those crushing development fees, offer grants or tax breaks to independent developers building for home ownership. The province can support hybrid construction, mixing prefab efficiency with on-site labor. That way, innovation doesn't have to mean job elimination. We can push for policies that actually support trades, training, apprenticeship programs. Because if we don't act, if we just keep watching, this industry will never look the same again. And that brings us to something you might not expect from a real estate video. Your vote matters in this. When you're going to the polls, municipal, provincial, federal, these are the issues that affect your future. Housing policy isn't just about affordability. It's about who builds, who owns, and who gets pushed out. And those decisions are made by the people we elect. Over the last 10 years, we've had the Liberal Party governing the country. And regardless of where you stand politically, just ask yourself, how much has this country changed? The trades, the ownership, the opportunity. Now let's talk about Brookfield, one of the largest asset management companies in the world, heavy in real estate, infrastructure, renewables, and yes, purpose-built rentals. And Mark Carney, the former governor of the Bank of Canada, has held senior advisory roles with Brookfield. We don't know his current status from the firm, but we do know this: Brookfield's model is about control, scale, and long-term profits. And they're shaping the future of how Ontario is built. So the question becomes, are we okay with that? Are you okay with that? Are we okay with the future where a handful of corporations own most of the housing? They control the construction and profit from every part of the supply chain, because that's where we're heading unless we start pushing back. And look, I'm not here to fan flames about 15-minute cities or conspiracy theories, but I am here to say that people are right to feel uneasy when everything starts to kind of look the same, when communities are designed from a boardroom, when home ownership slips out of reach for working families, and when people feel boxed in, priced out, and unheard. So before you vote next time, ask yourself, do the people we're voting for support small builders? Do they support the trades? Do they believe in home ownership? Or are they building a system that makes room only for institutions? Because the decisions we make now will impact not just our generation, but the kids' generation and their kids' kids' generation. So let's think about the future we want to leave behind. And let's make sure it's one built for people and not just for profit. So when you hear that number, 26,000 jobs lost, don't just think that's unfortunate. Think about what it represents. It represents families and communities and generations of builders. If we don't change the direction Ontario's heading, we won't just lose jobs. We'll lose ownership. We'll lose opportunity. We'll lose the soul of what built the province in the first place. Do you believe prefab and corporate-built rentals are the only way forward? Or do you think there's still room for small builders and real home ownership in Ontario's future? If you're in the trades, I'd love to hear from you. Please comment. Have you started seeing fewer projects? Are you worried about what happens when current site wraps up? And for everybody else, if you had the choice, would you rather live in a community built by local builders and trades or in a factory-made rental owned by a corporation? So let's get this conversation going. Drop a comment below, share the video with someone in the industry, and tag tradespeople or builders you know. So tell me, what kind of Ontario do you want to live in 10 years from now? One built by people or one built by machines? You guys let me know. Thanks, guys, for watching. See you in the next one.